At IBCanada Group, we are your complete and independent source on the infinite banking concept, serving Canadians from coast to coast.
Hi, I'm Steve MacLellan, the financial engineer and proud member of the IBCanada Group, where we show you how to grow, control, and keep your hard-earned money instead of giving it away to the banks, fees, losses, and the unknown. And today we got a great show here for you. We're joined with fellow member of the IBCanada Group and certified financial planner, Kathleen Vandenberg, where we're going to put Sarah Larbi in the hot seat. She's going to share her secrets to her success. She's a real estate developer, a TV and podcast host, and investor. She's going to share the secrets to her success and why she likes and uses the infinite banking concept. Sarah, you ready to go?
I am. Thanks for having me on.
How are you doing today? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am great. I'm great. That was a great intro. I'm a real estate investor, have been investing for the last 10 years. Started some developments, working on a resort that Kathleen actually came to as well. And we
fabulous project.
Aside from that, I'm working on a lot of like commercial conversion opportunities where we're converting buildings over to some residential units. And then the typical BRRRR type of strategies where we're taking, houses and we're creating, 3-4 units out of them and then deciding whether we're renting that all long-term or converting some to short-term, mid-term rentals as well. So I dabble in a few things, a few different strategies over the year. And ultimately, they're all BRRRRs in my opinion, right? Where you buy, you renovate, or, you build at that point in time, rents, refinance, and repeats. It's what got me here today.
Awesome. How did you get into the real estate and the BRRRRs that you mentioned? What drew you to that?
The real estate specifically, I just didn't want to work forever for 40 years to retire on 40% or your RRSPs or whatnot at that point in time. But I knew there was something bigger and better that can be done. And so just Googling how people, become wealthy and how people can retire early, and real estate kept coming up. So I am an action taker and I decided to buy the first one back in 2013. And that was a buy and hold. And then the BRRRR piece specifically came from when I realized there was a faster way to recycle your money out to be able to acquire more and scale at a faster level.
Yeah, the speed of money is a big thing, and multiple uses of your money is a big thing when it comes to wealth strategies and getting ahead. What would you recommend? Like, you're doing some amazing big developments. I saw the resort, it's fabulous. I know you take investors on for projects like that, but how would you recommend someone that wanted to get started or expand in real estate?
Yeah, expanded development. That's a whole different beast. That's a whole ball game. Definitely associate yourself with people that have done it before, whether it's a coach, a mentor, or bring them in as a partner, so that you can go off of their experience and their knowledge, their mistakes, their errors along the way. It's easy. Real estate can be forgivable if it's like a buy and hold or a small project, but once you get into the bigger stuff, you definitely want to know what you're doing. And if you don't, find somebody who does and find a way to bring them in.
Awesome. And as a real estate expert, the infinite banking has helped a lot of real estate investors, grow their assets, have multiple forms of income. But why are you a fan of the infinite banking concept?
I like the fact that you can diversify. There's definitely, a place and a need for it, but it is definitely another way to add to your portfolio and to grow your portfolio. I personally like the fact that there are options and, maybe different conversation for a different time, but where, we could utilize the cash in there to purchase additional properties.
Yeah, I love the conference that you had this summer at your developing resort, titled "Have Your Cake and Eat It Too," which really resonated with me as an infinite banking specialist, because I find that these policies are all about that. You can have the insurance and you can invest in real estate. You can have the insurance and you can secure your retirement with this option. So it just really ties in well, because you're all about that, right? Having your cake and eating it too, and having your investments, but living too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it is important. And then you never know what's going to happen in life, right? And so, if you do pass away suddenly, knock on wood, then, is your family and others around you able to, piece things together and liquidate if they want to liquidate or do what they need to do without, having a huge mess on your hands.
Actually, I've never understood the opposite of having your cake and not being able to eat it. That never made any sense to me. So I love the fact that you're saying have your cake and eat it too. And that's one of the benefits of the infinite banking concept, or having a properly structured whole life policy where there's cash value inside it, where you can actually use it. So why did you start your infinite banking concept or have that whole life policy instead of just throwing your money at the market or, straight out buying other properties?
Yeah. I mean, I think just the opportunity to be able to utilize it to buy real estate in the future, be the bank essentially for myself. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time to get it to that level, but it's better just like real estate, it's better to buy it 25 years ago, or you start today, and it's the same thing with that as well. It just gives you another opportunity to be the bank for yourself.
Awesome. Anything to add to that, Kathleen?
Yeah, like it's true what Sarah said, like you have to start to fund the bank, right? And then you get to be able to access the money for real estate. So that's the having your cake and eat it too. But when I think of future generations, then the bank is actually funded. And so a lot of people look at this as like legacy programs that can go on and on and on in perpetuity, right? So I just love accessing. I mean, personally, we've bought 3 properties. We've used it for the down payment and then got mortgages for the rest with our infinite banking policies. So we're a big proponent of mirroring real estate with the infinite banking policies for sure.
Yeah, it really complements the both. So you're getting that growth on your real estate, and you're getting the growth of the money that you're using or growing to buy more real estate, instead of having that capital or the opportunity cost gone. Whenever you give money to someone else, it usually leaves you. But with the infinite banking concept and having that properly structured whole life policy, you can actually retain that money that you work so hard to build, and it gets that true compound growth year after year. So it's really a complement to the real estate. It's kind of a win-win-win as I look at it. Now, Sarah, do you recommend others to use the infinite banking concept, or is this something you're learning yourself right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm still learning a lot about it. I still have a lot to learn about it. But I think it's definitely worth having a conversation with the professional to understand what your goals are and how that could fit into them. Insurance does have a place for it. And then, oftentimes what we hear from an insurance standpoint is, as a real estate investor, is just the mortgage insurance, which, like, for many reasons, that's definitely not the right type. So just having something where, A, you're protected, but B, you've got an ability to use that for yourself in the future, I think makes sense. But talk to the professionals and to see how and where it can best fit.
You're doing a lot in terms of development. Do you bring on investors? So if they wanted to have a more passive role yet invest in real estate, can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there, the types of projects that you would offer people to participate in?
Yeah. So, I mean, for the resort, we actually didn't bring in any investors.
Okay.
So it's just the 3 partners. I mean, could we down the road? Maybe. I think our play on that is mostly to try to keep it in-house with the 3 of us. And we just kind of essentially borrowed private money, private capital to fund it. We're also developing some townhouses. Those ones have been sold to investors. And then we brought in a couple investors at the ground level as well to share in the profits. But it's more of a boutique style type of development. I mean, I'm not like doing these in big scale. But aside from that, I'm also, where we are bringing in potential partners is on our joint ventures for our conversions. So we do like smaller conversions. So like where we're taking a single family and we're converting into 3 or 4 units. or some of the larger conversions where we're taking, commercial building. We have, as an example, I don't know if we'll close on it or not. We just have to still do our due diligence, but we have under contract an old hotel that's completely empty inside that we're going to be looking at converting it into 14 units. So likely, those types of projects is more where we're going to bring in investors at different levels to come in, whether it's, in the smaller or the bigger deals.
Yeah, that's exciting. Some commercial conversions, because commercial has definitely been beaten down after COVID. So as we record this today in the fall of 2022, how are you feeling about real estate moving forward? And we just got another rate hike of an additional 75 basis points. I feel like a lot of investors or would-be investors are pulling back, scared. They're not taking action anymore. They feel like things might get worse, or they don't want to leverage themselves. What are you telling people these days?
Yeah, I mean, in transparency, it is definitely harder to get financing, today, especially, if as the rates are going up in the stress test and everything like that. So, but we're still buying. There's things that we bought with a 4 in front of it in Hamilton that was unheard of. So I think there's still some great opportunities. To me, this is a long-term game. Is the market going to take a bit of a dip for the next year? Probably. But ultimately, what can you do to ensure that you've got, the ability to handle the downside, but like also take advantage of some of the opportunities in the deals? Because what I was buying at $600-700, a grand before, I'm getting at high 4s to mid 5s today. And even if the after repair value or what it's going to be worth when it's done, the renovations is going to be lower, it's actually almost a wash. At the end of the day, we're buying lower. Our refi is usually going to be around, is lower versus, and the rates are going to be higher. But when you actually look at the cost of the mortgage, it's actually very, very similar versus where we were before, where it was actually just higher and the ARV was higher and the mortgage rates were less. When you compare, it's similar. So, ultimately what I am telling people is I don't know what's going to happen in the short term. If you've got good market fundamentals in general, and you're able, and this is a 5, 10+ year plan, I would still keep going, and I still am purchasing. And we bought eight different deals in the last 6 months. And we are still looking. We still have something under contract, like I mentioned. So, but I think it's a matter of pivoting and understanding like what else can be done. And I think there are some things like, the rents are going up so much, right, year over year. So anything that has got a tenant in there that's rent controlled is going to be a little bit hard. But any new units are not rent controlled, so you can increase those unless the government changes, obviously. But you can increase those year over year by market rents. You could go into like a furnished midterm, short-term type of strategy to boost cash flow. So there's different ways that you could still make it work, but you have to pivot a little bit. And I just would say, just look at it as a long-term game, and maybe short-term, yeah, it's going to probably hurt a little bit. But I mean, I've never bought anything with a 4 in front of it until just actually, it was a student of mine just recently bought a house for $495 in Hamilton.
Wow.
That's good. I mean, you make a really great point that the prices have come down, but the rates are higher, but the rents are higher too. So we could probably still make a lot of stuff work.
Yeah, a lot of the new stuff. I mean, where people I think are suffering a little bit is like, and myself included, is the variable rates. Yeah. You've got a tenant that's been in there already probably below market, and then all of a sudden your mortgage payment and everything is much higher, and you can't really raise it back to them until they move out. So we'll see what happens. I mean, ultimately, I don't think we're going to be in this situation forever. Talking to some of the experts and whatnot, I mean, maybe we'll have another price increase, but then after that, I think it should stabilize itself. Again, don't have a crystal ball, but unless they want to tank the entire market, but I don't think so. It should stabilize itself, and we just have to suffer a little bit for I think the next year.
Yeah, one of the things I did with my infinite banking policy is I had on one property big line of credit, and the cost to borrow against the policy was actually less than the line of credit. So I did a little bit of interest arbitrage. I'm always, and I thought a lot about it because I didn't want to take my policy and pay off a mortgage amount that I might not be able to refinance and qualify again because I would close that window permanently. But the line of credit option was a good option for me.
That's a great point.
Yeah, as my dad used to say, there's more than one way to peel a potato. Sarah, you're a real estate developer. You own your own TV and podcast. Obviously, investor, business owner. You mentioned having to pivot a couple of times, and that's a true fact for every business owner out there during the last couple of years. I hear people tired of the term pivot, but those people that are tired of that aren't business owners. They don't realize what we actually had to do. And I see you're following some good advice of buying low and hopefully selling high down the road. But what's the secret to your success so far?
I mean, probably just taking action, learning enough, taking action, finding the right team of experts to be able to help you along the way. That's key. And obviously, being you guys as well in the infinite banking world. So just, knowing that I have a good team around me and coming up with a plan and goals and looking at it and revisiting that. But ultimately, I think it comes down to mindset too, right? There's a lot of media, BS out there and headlines and the stuff that is going to scare people. And I think, just shutting that stuff off and focusing on what you're doing and your goals and what's, in front of you rather than worrying about the future that may or may never happen. But, still being realistic about it, I think is huge. So that, 95% of your success, especially in this business, I think is mindset. And then the rest is everything else. And so, having that staying power, being able to say, okay, here's an actual real challenge. How do you go around it? And there's there's usually lots of exits.
Yeah, I agree. Like mindset and taking action. I'll have conversations with clients like, should I get a condo or a single family home, or can I do a duplex? And it's, in the end, I think that they'll all do well. And there's no crystal ball as to whether a condo in Toronto that's not cash flowing will end up giving you greater long-term wealth than a duplex in Timmins. But taking action is one of the biggest things, instead of being that analysis paralysis and not. For sure.
And just to add to that too, like, I think there's also smart ways to do it right now in this market. And there's some not as, I don't want to say not as smart ways, but I would say careful with the leverage, right? You don't want to over leverage yourself in a market like this as well. So, borrowing money for everything could be scary. And if you have to do that, maybe, instead of doing that, bring in a partner with the cash or whatnot. So there's ways to still mitigate your risk, but definitely take action, but just make it calculated and, careful with over leveraging.
I got to throw in having a properly structured dividend paying whole life policy is a great way to reduce your risk and still get that growth. Now, Kathleen's going to ask how people can get in touch with you, because obviously you're found information. But one of the things I ask my clients a lot of times, just to see where their mindset is, imagine that you had just 1 hour left on the planet. Maybe you're jumping on Elon Musk's spaceship and heading to Mars for a while, but you're just on this planet for 1 more hour. Who are you spending that hour with? What are you doing? And what advice would you pass on?
Probably my spouse and a bunch of friends. And I think it's just a matter of, like, life is short, enjoy it, enjoy the moment along the way. I think it's about goals, but I think it's about also, having some goals of the present. Like for me, I take the summers off as much as possible. So I take my hours of what I put into the businesses down to 5 to 10 max per week. And I spend it at the cottage, and back and forth if I want to come back for a couple of days here. But I think it's just important to live in the moment. And I was always very, very future focused when I worked 9 to 5. And, didn't enjoy, I think, my life as much as I should have. But, we're only here for a finite amount of time. And so what impact can you make? And hopefully I made enough impact on others to inspire them to, make their lives better and create that freedom for themselves, and, enjoy it as they are getting there in the process.
I'm jealous actually. Every year I say I'm going to spend the summer at the cottage, and inevitably it never happens. So next year. Yeah, so just in closing, Sarah, I'd love for you to let us know how they can get in touch with you, the name of your podcast, because I think that's a great podcast. I follow it. And also tell us about the conference you're having next year. Maybe mention that as well.
Yeah, sure. So how they can get a hold of me, they can go to my website, sarahlarbi.com, or Instagram, which is at investor Sarah Larbi, or email sarah@sarahlarbi.com. And then in terms of the podcast, I mean, it's called Where Should I Invest? I also have the Right Club podcast. We started a show called the Multifamily Investor Show, which is also on YouTube. And actually, we're showcasing some of our projects along the way. The TV piece, I co-guest host Everyday Investor with Rav Tour. We have the Right Club that we're now launching back live in-person events as well. That's the rightclub.com, REITE club.com. And then what was your last question?
Oh, your conference, next year's conference.
Oh, yes, the conference. So so now that the resort is, because it's a 5-year project ultimately, but there's something there finally. we are launching, we'll probably do it every year. Retreats, have your cake and eat it too, with investors, entrepreneurs. This year was fabulous. You attended, and it was on the resort. And it's beautiful. So if you guys do want to know more about the resort, it's inspirebeachresort.com, or you can check that out on Instagram as well. And as of October 1st, we are going to be opening it up for nightly bookings for the 3 cabins that we have up right now. And then next year we'll add more, and then the year after we'll add more. But it's essentially a 6-acre project over the next 5 years. So it's really cool. I'm excited about it.
It's a great spot, great lakefront. I went for a fabulous swim, good boating, nice lake.
Thank you.
Sarah, I can see why you're so successful. I love the advice of taking action, mindset, and that strong focus, and taking advantage of the opportunities that are out there. Please follow Sarah. If you're watching this, you can tell that she is a true professional. And if you want to learn more about the infinite banking concept that we chatted about here today, simply go to our website, IBCanadagroup.ca or .com, and they'll find an independent representative that will be willing and more than happy to help you out to start that infinite banking concept that we chatted about here today, but to make sure that it's designed properly for you. Thanks a ton, Sarah. I wish you nothing but success. Kathleen, it's good chatting with you.
You as
Take
well.
care, you guys.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much.
IBCanada Group, your independent authority for information on the infinite banking concept.